Welcome to the 2025 Minnesota Energy Innovation Summit. My name is Randy Ross, and I'm a faculty member. Yes, that's right. I was afraid there wasn't enough coffee to expect applause yet. Thank you very much. I am a faculty member here at the University of Minnesota in the Technological Leadership Institute in the College of Science and Engineering. Specifically, I am the endowed chair for the Spencer Edson chair based from 3M. As we gather today on Indigenous Peoples Day, we are reminded that the conversations we are about to have about energy and the collaborations and opportunities in our state have a deep connection to the knowledge that Indigenous people have held and honored for generations. As we encourage attendees to learn more about the many efforts from Indigenous leaders and partners to envision a better and more abundant energy system, including the many partners involved in the Tribal Advocacy Council on Energy, which convened its first ever Tribal Energy Forum in Mille Lacs in September, showcasing the many tribal-led projects, initiatives, and partnerships making a difference across our state. We encourage everyone to learn more about these Indigenous-led efforts to advance energy via the QR code in the slideshow that will be running in the space throughout the day. And before we officially begin today's program, I'd like to offer a land acknowledgement. As we begin, we acknowledge that the University of Minnesota is built upon the traditional homelands of the Dakota and Ojibwe with the traditional homelands of these people. It is important to acknowledge the people on whose lands we live, learn, and work as we seek to improve and strengthen our relations with tribal nations. We also acknowledge that words are not enough. Informed by our relationships with Minnesota's 11 tribal nations, we must ensure that our institution provides support, resources, and programs that increase representation and access to all aspects of higher education for Native American students, staff, faculty, and community. I look forward to continuing this work with the University of Minnesota community and the many partners present with us today for this important event. It is now my pleasure to introduce the co-host for today's event, Nina Axelson from Catalyst Grid.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Randy, for sharing that important acknowledgement. It sets the foundation for our time together today. I want to echo my respect for our state's Indigenous communities, who are nationally and globally recognized for their energy leadership. Welcome to our 2025 Clean Tech Innovation Summit. We are tremendously excited for this monumental day, featuring a fantastic lineup of speakers. You just have to get through me, and then you get to the good part. I'm Nina Axelson. I'm the president and founder of Grid Catalyst. We are an energy accelerator on a mission to make Minnesota a global hub for energy innovation. We focus on helping startups, and if any of you have worked on the startup spectrum, there's a lot to be done to help innovation make its place to the market, and there's a lot of folks in this room that contribute to that. This year, we're proud that we were able to be part of a broader partnership, bringing our missions and our events together to increase impact, engagement, and tangible growth for our region. So some big thanks here, starting with Chip Langen, who probably doesn't want me to call him out, but the University of Minnesota's Technological Leadership Institute. Some of you may have attended the Electroposium in previous years, and we're building on the momentum that they had in their first 2 years of that program. And then we have been able to work wonderfully this year with the Center for Transportation Studies at the University of Minnesota, Recharge America, and the Beneficial Electrification League. They're our co-hosts for today. They have been a major part of bringing together the programming and the experts. So really exciting to have such a great group behind us today. So maybe a round of applause for all those great co-hosts. I also want to thank our sponsors, the Minnesota Department of Commerce and Department of Employment and Economic Development, Toro, Thermo King, Great River Energy, Design Ready Controls, Avisen Legal, Clean Counts, and the Defense Alliance. I like to think that all of these organizations, as well as the folks in the room, were the secret sauce that makes Minnesota so special when I'm doing work across the country and across the world. It's just really amazing when we think about what we have here. And in preparation for today, I couldn't help but look back at my comments from last year's summit. About a year ago, a few things have changed. And at a time when that change feels maybe very immense and difficult, it was actually reassuring to look at my comments to see what has stayed the same, what's been a constant. As a region, we still have the highest concentration of Fortune 500 companies per capita in the world, with 17 calling Minnesota home. We have a statewide mandate to have carbon-free energy by 2040. We still have an immense goal of 100,000 clean energy jobs by 2030. We have an exceptional higher education community, and thank you again to the University of Minnesota for hosting us today. And our utility partners who are leading the way with the modernization of our electric grid, natural gas, and heating systems. And even as our industry faces headwinds, if you'll bear with me, there's a list of wins that I think is important to start our day with, because they're pretty amazing. Globally, renewable energy is now the primary source of electricity. Niron Magnetics just broke ground in Sartell to produce magnets without rare earth elements. The West Central Research and Outreach Center and the University of Minnesota Morris just hosted a ribbon cutting for the world-leading green ammonia plant. The University of St. Thomas is expanding its Center for Microgrid Research to continue its world-class research and teaching and testing. Xcel Energy just powered up the first portion of Sherco Solar, the largest solar farm in the upper Midwest. Helion has expanded to a new Rogers facility for additional solar module manufacturing. But wait, there's more. A sustainable aviation fuel blending facility near the MSP airport is being constructed and set to begin operations in early 2026. The Minnesota Climate Innovation Finance Authority, MNCIFA, or the Green Bank, has mobilized over $21 million in debt funding. And nearly $10 billion, I'll say it again, $10 billion has been invested in energy and manufacturing projects in Minnesota since 2022. I don't love to read a list, but that felt like it was important to share today and should again be part of the foundation of today's conversation. And it's not surprising that with all of this continued investment and growth, Minnesota is still seen globally as such a strong partner and a go-to partner in advancing clean energy innovation. I also want to note the continued partnership of the Minnesota Energy Alley Initiative, which is in partnership with the Minnesota Department of Commerce and Clean Energy Economy Minnesota. If you didn't know about it, it is part of how we are telling the world and shoring up what we do in energy innovation. And for us at Grid Catalyst, this is part of how we have been able to really mobilize our startup pilot projects over the last 2 years. So over 2 years of that program initiative, we've had 11 pilot projects in Minnesota and attracted over $35 million in follow-on funding for the startups that have participated in those cycles. We just announced 6 new startups for the 2026 program, including companies working in novel hydrogen, solar shingles, building electrification, efficiency, rooftop wind, lots of cool stuff. If you see someone with a green lanyard today, it's a startup. And I already was going to give everybody the prompt that you have to leave here today with 10 new friends. It's a big room. I think you can do it. But in particular, I really hope you take a chance to talk to those startups because they need the expertise and the network and the capabilities that are in this room today for success. Let's not just focus on deploying, which I know is so important, but let's make sure we keep that innovation pathway open. They will be presenting our 2025 cohort in sessions 2 and 3 in the Swain room today. And of course, the startups are only part of today's amazing program. And the longer I talk, the more I'm making you wait to hear from all these experts. So a few housekeeping items, and then we will get to the good stuff. If you have any questions or need help navigating the day, check in with the registration desk. If you haven't made it over there yet this morning, there's probably a lanyard waiting for you. And I just want to say thanks to all the folks helping out with all the event logistics today. including the registration desk and our dear Lily with Sustain Studio, who made sure everything was where it needed to be for today's event. There are restrooms available in the main hallway just outside this room and upstairs on the second floor, where there also is a nursing room available in the back of the women's room. We have an impressive lineup of exhibitors, so please stop by to visit with them in the Commons in University Hall, which is back out this way. And I can't see out there yet, but you guys might be able to see already the Roseville Fire's Rosenbauer fire truck and Rivian command vehicle. So just an example of how innovation is really becoming commonplace in our market. We'll have our opening and closing sessions together here in Memorial Hall. There are 3 breakout rooms, 2 directly back here and the Swain room next to the exhibitor hall. There are maps throughout the space and at the registration desk, or you can just ask if you need help finding something. Everybody here is going to be Minnesota friendly, I think. And the full agenda is available at the programs in the front, or you can go to minnesotaenergysummit.org and get to that agenda. So, last housekeeping, we will have a closing reception in the Heritage Gallery at 4 o'clock. But I know most of you are going to stay anyway because our closing panel is so good with Deed Commissioner Verlick, Commerce Assistant Commissioner Polish, and Niron Magnetics President Jonathan Roundtree. One of the best panels we've had and at one of our events. I'm super excited about that. As we turn to our opening session, I want to acknowledge that our state and our industry are facing tremendous hurdles and a cacophony of change. Changes in federal policy and funding have had an impact on every corner of our ecosystem, and we can't just gloss over how that is affecting everybody, and I know that's going to be a big part of the conversations today. Every single colleague I know has had to pivot in some way this year, and probably is tired and tired of pivoting. But they're digging deep to find a path forward for their organizations, for their mission, for the sector, and it truly is inspiring. But you all heard that impressive list of wins. This proves that we can continue to build a stronger, more competitive, and innovative sector here. And use today as an opportunity to learn about what's going on, the traction we're gaining, make real connections, and leave with some tangible opportunities to build an abundant new chapter together. I've said it many times this year, a little bit of a broken record, but I'm betting on Minnesota. And all of you gathered in this room make me even more certain that it's the right bet. But it's about what we do today and the next day together that makes that happen. So a little bit of a call to action for all of you. Make your 10 friends. Really try to use today as a jumping off point for whatever is next. So without further ado, I'm so honored to invite Bethany Owen, the president and CEO of Allete, to join us. She didn't want me to read her full bio, but I have to say, I'm going to give a short introduction to someone with a huge career that I am just such a fan of. So before being with Allete, she served in various roles, including the president of Superior Water, Light, and Power Company, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Allete. She's had responsibilities from legal to operations to technology strategy, cybersecurity, human resources, and even had spent some time in Washington, D.C. as a legislative aide. She's here to share some of her thoughts about where we are in our journey for energy innovation, and I couldn't think of a better person to kick us off today and share her thoughts. Welcome, Bethany.
Well, thank you, Nina, for that kind introduction. And goodness, when she asked me to come here today, I was floored. So good morning, everybody. It is an honor to be here with you all at the Minnesota Energy Innovation Summit. Certainly all the policymakers, change makers, innovators, and leaders that are helping shape the Minnesota energy future. It is great to be here. I, like Nina, and like probably all of you in this room, love many things about this great state. And one of the things that I love most is that we have been and continue to be a leader in clean energy. I'm proud to be here with you today representing my amazing Allete team, 1,600 people strong, with projects and presence across 30 states across this country. For those of you who may not be familiar with Allete, Forgive me, but I'm going to talk a little bit about our company. Our headquarters are in Duluth, on the shores of the greatest of the Great Lakes. I love Lake Superior. Allete is the parent company of 5 energy-related businesses and serving customers, a really diverse mix of customers, including some of the largest industrial and commercial customers in the country, and quite frankly, the world. For many of you, perhaps our 2 most recognizable names are our regulated utilities, Minnesota Power, which has been in the news quite a bit lately, as well as Superior Water, Light, and Power. And those 2 companies are proud to serve customers across northeastern Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin, and have been doing so for more than a century. Our other 3 Allete companies may not be as familiar to you, but Allete Clean Energy, New Energy Equity, and B&I Energy are also serving important roles, and they're helping other utilities and other companies meet their sustainable energy goals. We're a small but mighty company. We're small. When I say small, we're the 8th smallest investor-owned utility in the country. But when I say mighty, as a percentage of that size, relative to our small size, we're the 2nd largest investor in renewable energy of all publicly traded investor-owned utilities in the country. Our largest company, Minnesota Power, has been on quite the journey. Just 20 years ago, Minnesota Power was 95% coal. Today, we're providing customers nearly 60% renewable energy and leading the state in that way. And it's made all the more remarkable because we're providing near perfect reliability and the lowest total residential bills in the state. This remarkable progress is due to innovation and advanced technologies, including energy efficiency, demand response with our customers, renewable technologies, storage, grid-enhancing technologies, as well as AI. And the next steps are going to take a lot more innovation, a lot of hard work, and a lot of capital, but we're absolutely committed. I was grateful to Nina for the invitation to speak today, but I have to say it's been personally challenging for me to figure out what I would share with all of you that would be of interest to truly people with the innovation expertise and who are helping shape the clean energy future. So I'm really humbled to be here. But as humbled as I am, I do know that we share one thing in common, at least one thing. We are all incredibly passionate about energy. I don't know that you would be at the Minnesota Energy Innovation Summit if you weren't passionate about energy, so I'm pretty confident that we share that one thing. But looking at the summit agenda and all of the technical expertise and learning that's going to be part of today, when I think about the innovative spirit of this great state that I love, it's going to be shining brightly, and thanks to all of you for being here. As we consider progress, it's always really helpful for me to think about why, what, and how. The clean energy transformation is the what. But for me, it always starts with the why, our purpose, and then with the how we move forward together. Why are we here? Why are we all so very passionate about energy, and why is it so important that how we move forward, that we get that right? I believe the why of energy at its very core is people. People, businesses, communities, but people. As a company, we believe the services that we provide power life. They provide security, comfort, and quality of life. They're truly essential. Powering the hospitals, schools, nonprofits, businesses, homes, and industries of our region. Powering life in our communities. We know that as our company continues to transition to cleaner energy, we have to ensure reliability, resiliency, and affordability, because these services are so important to people's lives 24/7, and we take that responsibility incredibly seriously. So that's the why for me and for our company: people, caring about the people who live on this precious planet. And the what is transforming to increasingly clean energy. So how do we do that? Certainly innovation and creative technologies are all part of it. And in my opinion, how we do this is almost as important as what we're doing. For us at Allete, our business is built on a social license. People and communities have to see and feel and value the benefits of the services we provide and the opportunities they enable. We have to bring people along with us. Everything has to be done in the very best way, with every project having as many benefits for communities as possible, from siting and permitting, honoring tribal sovereignty always, to using local union labor, to ensuring supplier diversity, providing opportunities for people and businesses in our region, to developing a strong and talented workforce of the future. That is all part of how we must transform. Over the past 5 years, Allete has developed a growth strategy that really will transform our company. And it's all focused on the clean energy transition. And I'm excited to say we're growing our team. I understand there are many students in the audience today, and I will just tell you the opportunities are really limitless. I'm excited that our Allete companies are helping build the workforce of the future. And one part of that, we have a really clear vision for our internship program. It's identifying and developing tomorrow's leaders today. And over the past 3 years, remember we're about a 1,600 person company, and over the past 3 years we've had 100 interns join various parts of our company, and of those 100, 25% have joined our company as full-time employees after graduation. So we're not just filling positions, we're creating a team of new employees who are invested in our mission from day one. I'm also excited that we're developing learning opportunities for talented people who might go on to serve in other roles in our communities. An example is our partnership with the White Earth Tribal Community College that provided students with paid hands-on learning as part of one of our utility-scale solar projects. So to the students in the room, I'd be really remiss standing here, and my vice president of HR would be really bummed out if I didn't tell you that careers at Allete are an opportunity for you. Again, we have companies that are doing a lot of different things, and it's a really exciting time. We have a special purpose and an absolutely amazing team, and if you want to talk about careers at Allete on a break, happy to do that. Although the work is exciting and powerfully important and the opportunities are really boundless, it's never easy. But in my experience, things worth doing rarely are. With wildfires and extreme weather increasing, we know climate change is real, but we also know that not everyone is on the same page. Some want us to move more quickly, some think we've gone too far, too fast already. But everyone relies on energy to power their lives. So we hear the concerns. And I believe we can find common ground on the goals. Reducing carbon to mitigate the effects of climate change that every single person is experiencing already today, while preserving safe and reliable service, keeping energy costs as low as possible, and helping people and businesses in our communities thrive and grow, lifting up others as we move forward. And if we can all agree that those are the right goals, then I am confident that we can work together to achieve them. And there's no question that innovation is going to be a huge part of our moving forward. Our company's strategy is focused on achieving these goals, from our largest industrial customers who compete globally to small businesses with narrow margins to our most vulnerable low-income customers. We know we have to get this right. And getting the transition right means strengthening our communities as we move forward. Communities like Cohasset in Minnesota that have hosted the plants that have fueled our region for decades. And as those plants are retired or repowered, the economies of those communities are going to be challenged. I couldn't be more grateful to them that they are working closely with Minnesota Power on our transition plans. But this is why our team works so very hard on economic development to bring new jobs and new investments to these regions. I hope that you can hear the emphasis that we at Allete place not just on transforming the clean energy economy, the what, but also how we achieve that transformation. I believe a truly sustainable transition must solve this fundamental question. How do we create the future without leaving anyone behind? Even in this wild and chaotic 2025, with political and politically motivated economic and other pressures bearing down on companies and leaders, including Allete, we are not backing down from doing what we do in the ways that benefit people and strengthen communities. We will continue to work to address climate change by advancing even more renewable energy. And we are not backing down on our commitment that the energy transition must be equitable. We are not apologetic for believing in lifting up others as we move forward, and we are proud that we are working hard to make meaningful differences for people and communities, especially those who have been historically underrepresented. And as we've navigated the many challenges of the last 5 years and faced the challenges that 2025 continues to bring, I remind myself and our team, political winds are always going to blow. But we must continue to do what we believe is right for the right reasons. We must plan and build for the present and the future, because people are counting on us to get this right, and they're counting on the services that we provide now more than ever. It's a bit of a riff on one of my all-time favorite quotes, which is, I've really tried to guide my life. It's be the change you wish to see in the world. I hope we can all walk out of here today agreeing that working together towards a 100% carbon-free energy future is important, but also that how we do that is just as important. We need to keep pulling more chairs up to the table and even building new tables, seeking out and embracing diverse perspectives, listening with compassion, and developing lasting solutions together. And in this politically polarized and often angry world we're living in today, that will take extra effort, extra resolve, and extra courage. But working together, I know we can chart a course for an energy future that leaves no one behind. Whether we work at a company, an NGO, in education, or in government, we share that responsibility. So I want to end with a challenge for all of us. Let's continue to push boundaries, to collaborate and learn, to innovate, and to lead with courage. Because the future of energy isn't just about technology, and it certainly shouldn't be political. It's about people. Thank you all for your leadership and your innovative spirit and expertise, and especially your caring and commitment for the people and communities of this state that we all call home and love so much. Looking around this room, I believe the future is very bright. Thank you.
You know when you just know that someone's going to set the tone for the day, and then they just knock it out of the park. Thank you so much, Bethany. That was such a great way to open our day today. So we're going to have this wonderful panel that are getting seated up here. We're going to introduce them in just a moment. This panel runs till about 9:45, and then we'll have a coffee break, and then move into the breakout sessions. Just before the panelists introduce themselves, I just want to note that putting together a program like this is sometimes fun, sometimes not. But when you see the room full and you see the agenda full of people, I've just been so excited that these are the folks that are starting our day today. So I'm just so grateful, but also they're so representative of what makes Minnesota so exceptional. And so for them to be here today and to share their thoughts on what's going on in the world is just such a gift. So very grateful to them. So starting with Bill, if we could have the panelists just give your introductions, and then we'll move into some questions.
Yeah, thanks, Nina. I'd like to start by saying if any of you were wondering, why is that guy just sitting up on the stage? I too was wondering that. It was a failure to read the directions, a lesson I should have learned in first grade. It just seemed too late by the time I realized I was not supposed to be here. All right, so I am a director of business building in 3M Ventures, and our ventures organization is divided into two parts, and we've got people here today from both sections of it. One is our traditional corporate venturing, minority investments in startups that are strategically relevant for 3M. I'm on the other side of our business, and our job is to locate high-value, unmet needs in markets where 3M is unrepresented or underrepresented that we think we could do something about, and then build new businesses from scratch outside of our operating divisions to meet those needs, building them up large enough that one of our divisions takes them over from us. Most of our priority projects today are energy related. We're working in next generation nuclear. We are working in the hydrogen economy. We are working on making greenhouses as efficient as possible. We are doing carbon capture, both point source and direct air capture with both solid sorbents and membranes. So we are working in and around the energy space, both in Minnesota and across the world. And I would like to say we've been working with Grid Catalyst for, it's got to be 5 or 6 years now.
Close to,
Yeah, at least. And working with companies in their various cohorts. And so we're just really happy to be here today.
Thanks, Bill. I saw you up here and was wondering, what did I do wrong? Am I supposed to be up there? Good morning, everybody. My name is John Marshall. It's a real pleasure to see you all. Happy Monday. I work at Xcel Energy. I've been in the company for about 17 years now. Grew up in Minnesota, proud fourth-generation Minnesotan. Good to see a lot of folks here in the room. My role at Xcel Energy is Xcel 8-state utility, investor-owned utility. Serve portions of 8 states from Wisconsin to Michigan, Minnesota, North and South Dakota, Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas. Our company, NSP, Northern States Power, Minnesota, North and South Dakota, is the company that I work for within that area. I'm the regional vice president for the states of Minnesota, North and South Dakota, oversee a really dynamic team that is really relationship centric. The teams that I oversee manage our largest customers, about our 1,500 largest customers in those 3 states, manufacturing, refineries, the cities, the ballparks, the mall, big complex customers, the University of Minnesota, tremendous, very large customer of ours. Also fortunate and came up in the company through the community relations team. So we serve hundreds of cities, counties, townships, villages, and every single one of those relationships, very different, very, very important, and eloquent words from Bethany, very important relationships from a siting and land rights standpoint, from an authentic engagement standpoint. Every city, every community has their own approach and wants and needs with respect to energy. Some sustainability policy, others purely aesthetic with respect to equipment. So ensuring that we show up and be present is really important for that team. And then also really fortunate to manage our social investments group. This group owns our relationships with many, many nonprofits in the 3 states, with our indigenous cultures that we serve, as well as that are adjacent to with lands that we have facilities near, and as well as employee engagement, ensuring that our employees have many opportunities to get out, connect with each other, connect with our communities. And as a company that goes back to 1909, serving Minnesota, really, really proud of our alumni and our retiree group, too. I ran into Lyle earlier in the room. We have our big retiree breakfast in the morning. About 300 of our employees show up every year to re-engage, connect, and then they volunteer for our company throughout the year. So broad overview of my role, and again, excited to be here.
All right. John, I think I promised you like Dave Matthews walk-up music, so it's not your fault that
you did.
didn't. Yeah,
yes.
Sorry. Yeah.
Next time.
Yes.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So I'm Shashank Priya. I'm the Vice President for Research and Innovation at the University of Minnesota. So on a day-to-day basis, my job is to manage the research enterprise at the university, which normally comprises of a lot of research programs from federal agencies, industries, state agencies, foundations, nonprofits, etc. But one of the fun part of my job is, the other part is also fun, but the more fun part of the job is to work on different kinds of research initiatives in partnership with various teams. And these teams will normally be a mix of many faculty and students and postdocs, but also a lot of different companies and government entities. And so in the broad portfolio, I think energy occupies a very large spectrum of our research initiatives, all the way from material science, developing, as you heard, catalysts and membranes and different kinds of photovoltaics and so on, but also all the way up to deployment, like prototype generation and deployment. One of the less known facts about the university is it's one of the largest startup creator in the state of Minnesota. We have created about 280 companies since 2006, and each year in last 5 years, we have averaged about 24 companies per year. So one of the companies you heard, Niron Magnetics, is our startup. Was created in 2014, and now it's breaking ground for this 175 jobs in Sartell. But there are many other success stories. Being a big, large med school, about 40% of portfolio is med school oriented, so health sciences, but about 20% is dedicated to materials and energy-related technology. So as we go along in this panel, I think we'll talk about all the way from agricultural side of things, so like these crops that are used for sustainable aviation fuel, to ammonia generation from wind, to hydrogen production that we heard about, and photovoltaics and so on. So I'm looking forward to talking with my colleagues here today. Thank you.
Okay, and you've probably heard enough from me today, but Bill, I found it strangely comforting to have you on the stage with me. Nina knows that public speaking is not my favorite thing, so it was nice to have the company. So thanks for being here. I'm honored to be here. I feel like I should go get a pen and take notes for my panelist comments, but look forward to the conversation.
Thank you. I also just want to note something that Dr. Priya mentioned, that Niron Magnetics, that many of us are celebrating as this huge Minnesota win and obviously a big industry win. But 2014, that's probably the official incorporation, which means the research goes back even further. And so the work that we're doing can be tremendously complicated, and it's a long arc, and not everybody understands that and has the patience for it. And so just want to make sure that for those of you who don't pay attention to that startup arc, it's pretty significant. So we heard Bethany speak to this, but starting out with, we're going to probably say the word change or unprecedented 50,000 times today, but with a year of change, what has emerged as most crucial for your organization to advance energy innovation? I'm going to make John start.
Sure. Appreciate it, Nina. Definitely an extraordinary year, and I would say an extraordinary last couple of years as well. Obviously, the policy changes and things are one thing, set that aside, but there's just been a profound speed up, I think you could say, in the last 3 years of energy load growth as a utility, trying to chase that deployment of capital, as Bethany talked about in her opening remarks, trying to work really, really closely with those large customers coming on at the pace that they need. Niron's a great example. We were at the groundbreaking a couple weeks back. Proud to be serving them up there. They want to move quickly. We have customers that want to come in and interconnect quickly, also with bold energy goals. That continues to be a challenge. It's what the utilities do each and every day, but the pace of that speed to market for the technologies that they're bringing online, no matter what, is very much picked up in the last 2-3 years. So critical to have very good, trusted, close relationships with the customers, lean on each other in arrangements and agreements for infrastructure. You've had supply chain challenges impacting timelines to get those customers online at times. You have long lead equipment with delays, so really making sure that you have the trust with those customers as they're trying to bring their projects on very fast. And I think we're at the very beginning of what is going to be a decade plus of very expedient change in our industry for sure.
Me?
Yeah, go, anybody.
I agree. completely. When we think about kind of the need to electrify everything, to use the phrase that we've been all kind of bandying about over the last few years, it has been challenging. The supply chain issues are incredibly challenging, not just for kind of new customer projects, but for the infrastructure investments that we all need to be making to help ensure, again, that we get the transition right. Reliability is not a negotiable attribute for a utility. It is an expectation. When I think about kind of the large industrial customers we serve, and I'm sure it's the same for Xcel, it's not a production or a profit issue to have reliable power. It's a health and safety issue. So a momentary outage at one of these large industrial customers could actually jeopardize life in those plants. And so back to taking that responsibility incredibly seriously. So as we transition, making sure that, I call them the table stakes, of reliability and continuing to provide value-added services that are affordable to our customers, all of that has to be done right. And the supply chain challenges are definitely something that we're all trying to navigate in the very best way, including trying to advocate at the federal level as well that until we have kind of the domestic supply for some of these key pieces for transmission, generation, and otherwise, we've got to be able to continue to be more of a global economy. So I know we're all working on that together, but those I would say would be some of the challenges.
Actually, from the university point of view, there's a lot of changes that are taking place. But first I want to highlight about the research aspect of it. So in energy domain, there's a lot of translational research that has started to take place, that you have to not only develop whatever you are developing, let's say new semiconductor material for your photovoltaic or new catalysis or new membrane, you have to now partner with people who develop devices or prototype and demonstrate that it really performs the way you are supposed to perform. So I think there's a lot of convergence that is taking place across different disciplines to come together and demonstrate the effectiveness of their ideas. And this is very productive because we are able to then engage our industry partners and our government partners in much more effective way, that they are on the campus almost on a daily basis. I host some company in the office, and they are able to evaluate and provide comments and feedback and the next steps that we need to take with respect to that technology. We all know that energy increases rapidly and increasing, and I think my colleagues may have the number, but it's about 25-30% increase in electricity usage by 2030, and maybe about 75-80% increase by 2050. So how do you meet this demand? And so there's a lot of alternative ways people are trying to do this, all the way from small nuclear reactors to different kinds of fuel cells, to all sources, all the way from agricultural sources to hydroelectrics and so on. And so I think that's another research topic, that how do you provide large power densities at a small scale in a very cost-effective manner. And this is driving a lot of new generation of students and postdocs to do not only theoretical research to find new sources, but a lot of modeling and computation is going into this, trying to find new ways to design energy sources. One of my favorite example in this case is our Forever Green initiative, which led to the demonstration of the sustainable aviation fuel, which was used in Delta Airlines flight from Minneapolis to New York, based on winter camelina. And it's a really good example of how many years of work done by Don Weiss in Forever Green initiative finally led to creation of a fuel. And I think it has such a nice story here, that these crops are grown during the winter times when actually the field is barren, so it looks brown actually if you don't have any cover crops. And anything that is not covered with any crop is a problem by itself because it's emitting carbon, but also it's actually a drainage for water, which is carrying all these nutrients and also different kinds of chemicals to the water stream, which pollutes the water streams. But if you cover it, roots basically become the holder of all these nutrients and also absorbs the carbon. So it has a benefit for environment, but at the same time, these plants have about 35% oil seeds, which can be money-making things for farmers. And that research and that transition has now led to creation of a new industry. Pretty much farmers are trying to expand and grow, and the target is to grow these crops over 2 million acres in Minnesota to provide enough quantity for SAF to take place. So stuff like that. I think that's where university plays a good role, that you innovate something and hopefully in years to come it will transition and either become a startup or licensed IP or it partners with various companies.
Yeah, I think for my team, which is a small team working inside a large global public company, the biggest challenge for us in helping energy innovations to market has been for us to be as agile as the market has been, as the political environment has been demanding over the past year. We've seen companies that we are invested in and companies that we are working in lose funding. We've seen other areas in which we're working gain funding. And we are trying to move as fast as we can because the climate does not respond to political signals. The climate does what the climate's going to do. And Bethany, I was really encouraged to hear you talk about Allete's focus on not changing direction and continuing to push forward. And I have seen that kind of resilience across the space. And 3M is working with the companies that we're engaged in to make sure that they stay alive and are able to continue to push their innovations forward. And I'm seeing that across the ecosystem. And I'm sorry that we have to be as agile as we have to be right now, but I'm also encouraged that people are in it for the long haul and we're continuing to push.
That's a perfect segue here, Bill. I'm going to jump to the question about how do you balance what feels like pretty acute short-term disruptions with your long-term plans and goals, because all of your organizations with a long history of moving things forward and a long arc future. So how do you balance what you think is coming the next 3 to 6 months versus where you think you'll be in 5 years? It feels like the equivalent of the job interview question of where do you see yourself in 5 years, right?
I think you have to remain optimistic. I mean, really deep down, go back to the running theme of relationships, and specifically this area of the country. You look around this room, I have a lot of colleagues and friends that I have worked with in the last 17 years, and that drives me and makes me feel very optimistic about meeting small challenges and issues that we have to work through together. We have a long history of innovation and success in Minnesota, and let's not forget that, despite anything that's going on. Take the little victories and the successes that are happening. I mean, Xcel, we have also not changed course. Announced 100% carbon-free vision company-wide back in 2018. We're well on our way. We have a 2040 goal here based on statute in Minnesota. We're at about 64% carbon-free electricity, which is great. Our continued plan by the time we hit 2030 should be well over 80% carbon-free. Still got to get to that 100%, but we remain optimistic on how we get there. You noted Sherco Solar Phase 1 is now online, which is very, very exciting. Our Sherco 2 coal facility was retired successfully. We're watching the grid operate. We're learning through that, and our operators are learning and feeling very optimistic about the data that they're seeing. You've got to take the little victories, and you got to remain optimistic. We've done a great job, I think, as a collective state for many, many years. We can all work through this together through collaboration.
Maybe I'll speak from, again, one of the smaller companies in kind of the energy investor-owned utility space. We've really had to, and if you've been reading the news lately in the energy space in Minnesota, our company has really had to pivot, as we think about kind of our long-term commitment to the clean energy transformation, our long-term commitment to reliability, affordability, doing it all in the right way. We're having to change our business model. So as we look at kind of the near term, how can we, the path that I and our Allete board looked at, how can we stay who we are with the commitments that we have, the team that we have, and be able to navigate these kind of near-term challenges. We have, again, we're about a less than $4 billion market cap company, which I realize to some sounds really big, but in the energy space, again, we're a really small player. But we have $5 billion of projects that are, most of which have already been approved by the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission, that we needed to, and that's just over the next 5 years, and how were we going to raise that in the public markets? So we've had to pivot to try to find kind of deep pocket, committed to the clean energy transition, partners that are committed to doing things, the how of how we do business, and the commitments that we have to the state and our customers and to integrity and all of that. And so that's really a big pivot that our company has had to do in kind of the near term to plan for the long term and be here for the next century.
So on the university side of things, I mean, there's a lot of federal changes that have taken place. A lot of policies and regulations that have come by, so we have to readjust our compliance and how we manage the programs at the university. There's also a lot of cancellations of programs and stop orders that have taken place, so we had to readjust on how to transition the students and postdocs that were working on this program into something else so that they can continue and finish off their degrees. Also some topical areas that are no longer receiving funding. So if you are a researcher in those topical areas, we need to find other ways for them to be actively engaged and continue their creativity. So there's a lot of change that has taken place, and it continues to take place. We are waiting now for the appropriation bills to be passed, so we know what each agency will get. Hopefully there's no drastic cuts across the funding landscape because that will be detrimental for a lot of researchers, because research is not that you can start and stop. It's a very active process. As we heard, it takes years to reach somewhere, and if you have worked on something for many years and suddenly it's stopped, it's not like it will be started again 6 months later. You will have to almost go back and restart because you lose the students and you lose all the samples and so on that you have created. So it's a big concern in this time. But I think what it has done is forced our researchers to look for other ways they can partner, especially partnering with companies on the table here. Actually, all of them are very good collaborators of University of Minnesota, so thank you very much for that. It also has brought a lot of foundations, nonprofit foundations, to come and partner with the university, and they're trying to fill the gap. Nobody can fill the federal hole. It's impossible. But it's providing a little bit of support for these folks to continue, and that has been a really positive news. But as we partner with these entities, it also lifts the research level. So you go from very basic science-oriented work to a little more demonstration and prototype-oriented work, because these partners are interested in demonstrating the application of the things that you are trying to do. And I think that's also a good thing for our researchers, that they will get the chance to not only collaborate intellectually, but also collaborate in accessing the resources within the companies and try to lift their own work that is going on in their labs. So I think that these are the changes that are taking place.
Yeah, and I agree with what everyone has said here, and just want to say that we have to take the world as we find it, moment to moment, and what we are trying to do is focus on the parts of the energy ecosystem that we have some control over, and continuing to push forward with those. We're blessed within our organization to not have quarterly targets. We're thinking longer term anyway, so thankfully a 3-month window is not material for us, but for a lot of the companies we're working with, it is material. And finding ways to help them weather this period of time, pivot, and get to the point where they can be stable and continue to move forward is a real focus of ours, and we have those conversations all the time.
Great. I want to ask a follow-up question to our utility partners who have already shared lots of thoughtful planning around your resilience and reliability. Maybe a little bit for those who don't spend as much time thinking about this, but when we think about the Minnesota landscape specifically, and especially since, Bethany, you mentioned the electrify everything strategy, are there any things that you would note about specific to Minnesota's unique energy landscape? How do the factors of what we have here, what we're missing here, what's harder here, how does that line up for you as you're doing planning? And John, especially for you, because you're across 8 states, if you could note some of the things that Xcel sees as differentiators.
Sure. Appreciate the question. It's a unique approach, right? We are an 8-state company. We are very much a company in 8 different states, different sets of policymakers and leaders, and again, hundreds of communities. And how do we meet the moment for what everybody wants at once? It's important for us as a company to always lift up our strategic value of the geography that we serve, all the way from Michigan, snaking our way down into the upper plains of Texas and Amarillo. Very, very rich wind industry, right? It's part of what's made Xcel one of the #1 wind energy providers for 20 plus years. Wind has saved billions of dollars in pass-through costs directly to our fuel costs for our customers. Proud to have that as a critical component. It's but one of our generation components for our portfolio. Proud to have it in the past, and very much doubling down on the investments for wind going forward. We talked about solar. Still very optimistic about battery, not just large-scale 100-hour batteries. We have plans for a Form Energy battery up in Sherco and Becker, navigating through some federal funding changes now, and kind of more to see where that goes. But we filed a program recently called Capacity Connect just in the last week, where on the distribution system in neighborhoods, we're going to deploy batteries that we would be operating to better optimize our distribution system and avoid significant investments in the distribution system, and also charge those batteries when costs are low with renewables. So a lot of different innovative strategies here going forward. I think that geography for us in particular is important. Going back to the policy landscape, every of those 3 states that I oversee have different thoughts and opinions, pretty strong ones at times. And going back to the relationship piece, having the authentic, honest, hard discussions at times, working with investor-owned utility peers. We have Otter Tail and Minnesota Power Allete here in Minnesota. In the Dakotas, we work very closely with MDU and Otter Tail and Northwestern and Black Hills Power as utility peers to try to come together on healthy, good policy for advancing energy innovations that we're all trying to seek. So again, from a geographic standpoint, very fortunate on the renewable side for wind in particular.
Bethany, anything you want to add?
I think very well said. I mean, just as I mentioned earlier, the extreme weather can be a challenge in Minnesota, and again, making sure that we get it right. Wildfire risk in northern Minnesota and wildfires in northern Minnesota has been a newer development for us. And I know I'll put a plug in for Xcel, a big announcement this past week in terms of working, how do we use technology to make sure that we have advance warning, as much advance warning of potential wildfire as possible. And there's wonderful work being done on sensor technology, cameras, as well as using artificial intelligence to help predict as much as possible so that we can get ahead of it. We serve a very remote region. Parts of our service territory are very remote and very precious to the entire state and the region in terms of natural resources, and making sure that we are capable of addressing, certainly not causing the issue, but also capable of addressing, whether it is proactively turning off transmission lines that might be in the line of fire and that kind of thing. But I just emphasize that because that's not something Minnesota has not traditionally been in the red zone for wildfire risk, unlike some other parts of the country until more recent years. And it's something that we will continue to face as this climate continues to change. And so how can we use technology to make sure that we're ready to respond and mitigate the effects as much as possible?
Thank you. Do you have
Yeah,
something?
actually, one of the examples I would like to highlight is from the Natural Resources Research Institute, NRI, in Duluth. And they are working with Iron Range in Coleraine in order to basically decarbonize the iron production and the steel making. And this is such a beautiful example because Minnesota has about 80% of the iron ore that the steel companies need. But the steel industry is also one of the large emitters of carbon, about 7%. So how do we, all the way from iron production to the steel production, we can reduce the consumption. And carbon is inherent in steel, so you can't just remove carbon from steel. And so this project is actually a good collaboration with a lot of electrical companies here on the table, trying to produce basically hydrogen from electrolysis, and then use that hydrogen for reduction in the steel, but also use hydrogen as a fuel in the production of iron and combine that with solar and wind to get the electricity for direct reduction of iron DRI process. It's a closed loop operation. Hopefully this project will demonstrate a pilot scale facility where you can take the ore from the ground and basically refine the iron suitable for production of steel, all using the clean energy in the process. And this would be a great win for Minnesota, as I said, because we supply the ore. It improves the reliability of the ore production, but also it makes the ore much more competitive in the international market when it's a clean coal, a clean iron. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm going to toss one over to Bill next here. So obviously 3M has a long history of translating research and development into commercial products. When you evaluate energy innovation investments, opportunities, I think it'd be really interesting for the group here who maybe doesn't spend as much time in that exact space to learn, like, what are the criteria 3M is using, and how are you thinking about technology readiness and opportunity?
Yeah, it's a great question, Nina. So as we evaluate spaces where we think 3M ought to be more involved, at our heart, we are a material science and chemistry company. I mean, people know us because of Post-it notes and Scotchgard, and they think that's, our consumer business is far and away our smallest business group within the company. So most of the work that we do is providing products to other businesses, components that become the technological heart of what they do. And you were talking earlier in your introductory remarks, Nina, about the advantages that Minnesota has and the Fortune 500 companies that are here. But something that's unique about the Fortune 500 companies that are here is the vast majority of them actually make stuff. They manufacture things. They have factories. It's hard tech. And hard tech is hard to scale. I don't want to minimize the problems that software companies have in scaling with people and resources, but from a capital expenditure perspective, going from 0 to industrial scale globally, which is what we need for all of our energy innovations, that's hard tech, it's CapEx intensive. And in many instances, 3M already has fully depreciated lines that can make what the world needs. So we are working closely, and one of the criteria that we use as we're working with startup companies is, do we think we can help them succeed without tremendous CapEx expenditures? Can their Series A be $20 million instead of $45 million if we can find a way to work together? So that's one of the primary criteria we use. And of course, we're also looking for market pull. And when I talk about that, what I mean is there is demand in the marketplace that is ready to take an innovation that is able to scale, as opposed to a situation where you have an interesting technology, but nobody's heard about it, and you're trying to push it onto the world. That's much harder. We're trying to move faster, so we want companies that we can help scale, technologies that we develop internally that we can scale rapidly, and we want it aimed into spaces where the market is ready to translate it into real decarbonization gains.
Thanks, that's really helpful context. And I don't know if, Dr. Priya, if you would have anything to mention as you think about, I'm kind of going a little bit backwards with the question, but of, what are some of the technology trends, or you've mentioned a few already, that you think are prime for jumping into that space, or who you think will have that maturity in the short term?
Yep. So actually the many advances taking place simultaneously, right? So a lot of work being done in power electronics to reduce the energy consumption, but also the optimization of the grid. And fortunately, we had a big win in Minnesota. As you know, Polar Semiconductor was given this CHIPS and Science Act. Hopefully that will create a foundry for high voltage chips. So there's a lot of work being done at the university in partnership with the Polar to design these chips using nitrides, carbides, etc. A lot of good work being done in advanced batteries at the university, different kinds of chemistry that can provide basically high power density and energy density. Good work being done in simulations, so creating digital twins of different projects that allows us to basically simulate the environment and include different features that can hopefully affect the performance of these grids under different scenarios. But one of my really good example is about how a small facility in Morris called WC Rock, West Central Research Outreach Center, they're working on generation of ammonia directly from wind and solar combined together. And this is a really interesting project because ammonia is such a clean fuel. When you burn ammonia, you don't produce carbon. And so it can be used for a variety of things, all the way from fertilizers in the field, combining ammonia with carbon dioxide that comes out of the fermentation processes to make urea, which is another very good fertilizer. But ammonia can be transported in a much more safer manner, and you can then use it for making combustion devices. So you can use it for tractors and various other purposes. And ammonia is also very good for machines, so you can use it for grain drying purposes and stuff like that. And if you combine all these things together, that you can use it for fertilizers, which are clean fertilizers now, you can use it for drying operations or cutting operations, and you can use it for machines such as tractors, you can actually make a very good sustainable agricultural practices. You almost eliminated carbon from all the major steps that happens in agriculture. So I like what is happening on our campus in Morris and trying to basically advance Midwest sustainable agricultural initiatives.
Thanks. I want to just maybe add one point of context that I know they'll be digging into in the financing clean energy innovation session later today. But for those who don't track this, NASA created a spectrum of scale years ago to look at technology readiness. It's the technology readiness levels that the Department of Energy has since adopted. And anytime anybody comes to me and says, I want to talk TRLs, I know like we're going to have a really fun conversation. So that's, get that in your pocket now. But thinking about that day one, week one for NIRON is, as they're incubating and developing and researching at the University of Minnesota, these are at TRL levels up to usually 4, 5, 6. 4 is really when you're getting that first version of a prototype. 5 is when that prototype starts to get a little bit of a run in the lab or some other kind of usage. But when we talk about the commercialization valley of death, if you ask most utilities, and I won't put our utility partners on the spot, but they'll say, we'll touch something when it's an 8. And so you get from, we've developed this, we've put years into it, and utilities are built to be reliable, and that reliability and that cost stewardship, all those things are baked into. We can't just try everything that's been duct taped together in some very early stage, right? So making sure that there are partnerships, and that's where I see these 4 really play a role so importantly at every stage, because they have that stewardship, but there still are gaps within that. And so just something to be thinking about in thinking about how we finance things, the stewardship around each component of it, because there has to be a really solid baton handoff, and without it, the tech doesn't make it out of the lab. So just want to note that as we're thinking about how those things all come together. So I knew we wouldn't get to all our questions today because we have such a great panel. We've talked a lot about challenges, and y'all already heard the list of some of the wins earlier today, but just to hype squad a little bit here, what are some of the things that have been going on in your organization this year, if you haven't mentioned them already, that you want to just really highlight as some wins?
I can start with this one. I'm going to mention briefly, I talked about greenhouse efficiency. This is a project that we're working on with the University of Minnesota. There are some experimental greenhouses over on the St. Paul campus right now, working with light management films that we've developed. And these are being deployed worldwide now by a company called Volteris, which is headquartered in Switzerland. But a lot of that research happened in Minnesota. And these are light management films that, as light comes into the greenhouse, it allows the spectrum that the plants need to pass through and continue to feed the plants and actually increase crop yield because it decreases temperature. But all the parts of the spectrum that the plant doesn't need get reflected onto photovoltaics that then produce energy to drive the energy needs of the greenhouses. And in some parts of the year, in some parts of the world, it can provide 100% of the energy that greenhouses need. Other times of year, obviously, that's not going to be the case, but it is increasing yields while at the same time decreasing energy usage within greenhouses, which are becoming increasingly important across the world. So I'm really excited about that innovation. It's one that is taking place essentially 100% here in Minnesota, even though it's being deployed all over the world.
That's great, Bill.
One I want to mention is personally exciting for me. When I started at Xcel Energy, worked out of our Rice Street Service Center on the East Metro in St. Paul. We were finally building a new East Metro operations campus, and it is at a site called The Heights in the northeast pocket of the city of St. Paul. Port Authority development. It's a great mixed-use, light industrial, job-creating housing next door with Habitat for Humanity, massive property. We bought acreage and are almost done with our East Metro Service Center. Very excited. We've had the same service center on Rice Street since about the 30s. So new facility for our employees will be exciting. We're using University of Minnesota incubated technology at Darcy Solutions. We'll have geothermal across the whole campus. It's the first deployment of geothermal for us, for any of our facilities in our 8 states. We're really excited. A couple megawatts of rooftop solar. And we'll be running our gas operations team out of there, but it's a fully electrified building. There's a tiny little gas line just for the sniffer trucks and the inspection equipment, but it's our first big pilot for fully electrified for our employees, and very excited to see that come online, excited that the impact of the project helps the Heights overall development happen. And again, some great technology with Darcy.
Thank you. So on the university side, actually, there are some really good examples. One of our institute called IONE, Institute on Environment, teaming together with NRI in Duluth, have done some good work in carbon sequestration systems and also the biochar production, almost at the industrial scale. And this technology is now being licensed. Our sustainability initiative, so I can see Shane there, they've done a lot of good work in integration of clean energy sources with the total electricity usage at the university. So just like the companies here, we also have a goal of becoming net zero, and I think his team has done a lot of good work in moving us on that path. A good partnership with Biomade in Minnesota, which is basically a biomanufacturing initiative, trying to design different kinds of biomolecules or feedstocks that can be good source of various kinds of things, including energy. So feedstocks could be like corn or soya bean or something else, and extracting these biomolecules to design different bioenergy sources. So a lot of good work that has came out of it, and hopefully based on this IP, we'll create some new companies here. And then lastly, I would like to point out the work being done in the area of photovoltaics. So photovoltaics has evolved, as you know, dramatically. Many, not only semiconductor-based materials such as 3,5 and 2,6, etc., but also these new generation of things like dye-synthesized solar cells and perovskite solar cells and so on. And people continue to find new ways to basically extract sunlight. And so some really good research here on trying to provide high-efficiency, low-cost solar cells. Yeah.
That's great.
So a little bit of a different tack. You know, there's so many wins that I think we can celebrate across our industry. For Allete, I will just focus on a really recent win, which was, again, getting approval for the path that enables us to move forward with the clean energy transformation in the ways that our company is committed to do. And money is a part of that, right? And so having the access to the capital, commitment to the capital for our 5-year plan, which is really significant. And I will say that's an ironclad commitment, but there's a commitment longer than that these partners have made for us. But they've also put their money where their mouth is in terms of the clean energy transformation. So our new investors have set up, they will be setting up a $50 million clean firm tech fund. And so if you have ideas for what that actually means, please get involved in our integrated resource plan that'll be coming up. But, and as well as $10 million towards weatherization, so ensuring that the homes of low and moderate income customers are able to navigate kind of also potentially increasing costs associated with electrification, but their carbon footprint can also be lower. So, and then $50 million in rate credits. So there is really significant benefits coming back to our customers and our communities, as well as the climate as part of the path that we've chosen, in addition to our employees and keeping our company special as we are. So I couldn't sit here and not celebrate that win, because it has been hard fought, including with some incredible partners that are in the room today who stood in the fire with us, and I'm beyond grateful to you all.
Thank you, Bethany. I could talk to these folks all day, but we booked a lot of other really great speakers and conversations for the day that I know will be brain candy for everyone as we go. But I especially want to thank this group, because you all also represent the Innovators Network that, as Bill mentioned, works with Grid Catalyst and is enabling that transition of energy innovation from research into the marketplace with your partnership. So you're just firing on all cylinders and doing great things for our state and our sector. I'm so grateful for you all to share today. Hopefully this got everybody thinking about a really wide range of possibilities, knowing that the expertise is also very deep. So please continue to have those conversations with these folks today. We're going to be on a coffee break until 10:15, when we'll move into the 3 breakout rooms. Again, there's a program at the registration desk or at minnesotaenergysummit.org. Let's give a round of applause to these amazing folks. And before you run off, I'm going to keep reminding you, 10 friends. You have to make 10 new friends today. It's a big room of amazing people. These might be your first 4. Have a great day.